Well, damn, this is escalating again. Chicago Sky GM Jeff Paglucia is completely done with Angel Reese. He's looking to get rid of her. He had just made a statement. The Chicago Sky sent out a statement to Angel Reese, and I'm pretty sure she wants...
Watch that energy. That's not excitement about breaking news. That's someone who just watched a franchise relationship completely implode, and what he's about to break down reveals a split that's been building since September 2024. The Chicago Sky just sent Angel Reese a message so clear, so deliberate, that even casual fans can't miss it. They canceled Barbie Night. Now, if you don't follow the Sky closely, that might not sound significant, but Barbie Night was Angel Reese's signature promotional event. The franchise built it around their biggest star. It was on the schedule for 2025, and now it's gone, scrubbed completely. In its place, Marvel Superhero Day, Mental Health Awareness, Pride Night, every other theme you can imagine. But the one event tied directly to their franchise player vanished.
You can put your bottom dollar on that, and now GM Jeff Paglucia and the Chicago Sky just sent a statement to Angel Reese. If you don't know, now you know. Take a look at this. Chicago Sky, our 2026 theme games schedule is here. Okay? And you see it here. You got May 20th, opening night. You got May 29th, Women's Cancer Awareness.
Let's establish the timeline here, because context matters. September 2024, final week of the regular season. The Chicago Sky suspend Angel Reese for half a game after she makes comments to the Chicago Tribune that the organization deemed detrimental to the team. That's not Coach Tyler Marsh's decision. That comes from the top down, from GM Jeff Paglucia himself. Here's where it gets messy. Reese is perfectly healthy during warm-ups. She's moving fine, no visible issues. The suspension gets announced at halftime. And suddenly, for the second half and the final 3 games of the season, she's got a back injury. The team lists her as day-to-day with back soreness. She never suits up again. Then, the moment the season ends, she's on a private jet to Vegas, dancing, twerking, living her best life. The back that was too injured to play basketball for a week, completely fine for partying in Nevada.
Mates under the bus, Ariel Atkins, who sat at the podium and defended Angel Reese earlier in the season. Ariel Atkins don't want nothing to do with Angel Reese and his team. She don't want nothing to do with this. She threw Courtney Vandersloot under the bus, talking about we need a younger point guard. She's old, yada, yada, yada. Just for Courtney Vandersloot to have to get on camera and take shots back at Angel Reese and say, oh, my age isn't a problem and I will be back despite.
Now here's what makes this significant beyond just one player quitting on her team. Angel Reese didn't just refuse to play. She threw her teammates under the bus publicly. Multiple teammates, by name. Ariel Powers stood at a podium earlier in the 2024 season and defended Angel Reese when controversy hit. Stood there and backed her teammate when the media pressure was intense. How does Reese repay that loyalty? By the end of the season, Powers wants nothing to do with her. The relationship is completely fractured. Courtney Vandersloot, a veteran point guard, Chicago native. This city is home for her. Reese goes on record saying the Sky need a younger point guard, basically calling Vandersloot old and washed. Vandersloot had to get in front of cameras and defend herself, had to publicly state that her age isn't the problem and she'll be back in Chicago despite what some people say. That's not subtle. That's a direct response to Reese's comments. Think about what that does to a locker room. You're a veteran player who's given everything to this franchise, and your young star is publicly campaigning to replace you. That's not constructive criticism. That's sabotage.
Soon as the WNBA draft starts, she could be traded for some draft picks. I'm telling you, it can happen. This is a sign. Angel Reese, for whatever you feel about her, she's the star of the Chicago Sky. I know Camila Cardoso was drafted ahead of her. Angel Reese is the one that's made 2 All-Star games. Angel Reese is the one that's about to be on the Olympic team. Camila Cardoso ain't done nothing. Haley Van Lith barely even played in her rookie year. Okay, they already made a bonehead move trading 2 draft picks so that.
But the most telling moment came from GM Jeff Paglucia himself. November 2024. After the season ends and the tension is public knowledge, a reporter asks him directly about Angel Reese's future with the franchise. His response? She's on the team until I hear differently. Read that again. until I hear differently. That's not how you talk about your franchise cornerstone. That's not how you discuss the player you drafted 7th overall, who made 2 All-Star games in her rookie season, who's about to represent Team USA in international competition. When a GM says a star player is on the roster until I hear differently, he's telling you he's actively listening to offers. Compare that to how successful franchises talk about their stars. When the Fever get asked about Caitlin Clark's future, they don't say she's here until we hear differently. They say she's the foundation of everything they're building. The contrast is jarring.
Angel Reese canceling Barbie night sends a huge message to Angel Reese and all of Angel Reese's fans. You are on the chopping block. They are looking to get rid of you, and maybe this is what you want. Maybe you don't want to be there. I mean, you absolutely quit on the team last season. Make no mistake about it. That ego, when they said we're suspending you for...
Now let's talk about what this means for Chicago's future. The Sky hold a top 5 pick in the 2025 WNBA draft. Flau'jae Johnson from LSU is projected to be available in that range. Johnson and Reese were teammates at LSU. They won a national championship together in 2023. On paper, reuniting them makes perfect sense, except it doesn't, because every indication suggests Flau'jae Johnson wants nothing to do with playing alongside Angel Reese again. Think about that. You have the opportunity to reunite championship teammates, and the other player would rather go later in the draft than join your team. That tells you everything about how Reese is perceived by players who know her best. The Sky also made a questionable decision before the 2025 season. They traded 2 draft picks to Golden State just to protect their entire roster from the expansion draft. The problem? Nobody from Golden State wanted anyone on Chicago's roster badly enough to use a pick on them anyway. They protected players who weren't in danger. That's asset management malpractice.
Okay? Well, they haven't forgot about what happened. And I'm telling you, when she threw her teammates under the bus, you think other free agents around the league didn't see that and say, oh, nah, I don't want to go to her team. Because if things don't go right, she liable to get on camera and throw me under the bus. I watched her throw all these other players under the bus. Why would I go sign over there? They already suck. They're already terrible. Why would I want to go over there and potentially get thrown under the bus by their biggest?
Here's the part that should terrify Chicago's front office. Free agents around the league are watching this. They saw Angel Reese throw multiple teammates under the bus when things didn't go her way. They saw her quit on the team with a mysterious injury that disappeared the moment vacation started. They saw her publicly campaign to replace veterans. Now put yourself in the position of a free agent this offseason. You're evaluating potential destinations. Chicago has cap space. They have a decent market, but they also have a star player who's proven she'll blame everyone else when the team struggles. Why would you sign there? Why would you risk becoming the next Courtney Vandersloot, publicly called out by your own teammate? The Sky already have a reputation problem. They fired Teresa Weatherspoon after 1 season despite her being beloved by players. They've had coaching instability for years. Add in a toxic star player who throws teammates under the bus, and you've got a franchise that's going to struggle to attract talent. That's how you end up stuck at the bottom of the standings.
What GM Jeff Pagluccia had to say a few months back when he said, Sky GM says Angel Reese is on the team until I hear differently. That is not convincing. That is not how you talk about your star player. That's not how you talk about your star player. And that is not giving a boot of confidence.
The Barbie night cancellation isn't just symbolic, it's strategic. The Sky are sending a message to Angel Reese, to her fans, and to potential trade partners. They're saying this relationship is over. They're saying they're ready to move on, and they're doing it in the most public way possible. Think about the planning that goes into theme nights. These schedules get finalized months in advance. Promotional partnerships get locked in. Marketing materials get designed. The fact that Barbie night was on the schedule and then got removed means someone made an active decision to cut it. That's not an accident. That's a statement. And here's what makes it brilliant from Chicago's perspective. They're not creating a media circus. They're not holding press conferences to trash their star player. They're just quietly removing her signature event from the calendar and letting people draw their own conclusions. It's professional, it's clean, and it's devastating.
That's the direction we're going to move, is that she's on the roster. Until I hear differently. Reese, the number 7 pick in the 2024 draft, was suspended for a half after making comments to the Chicago Tribune that the franchise deemed detrimental to the team, an organizational decision that came from the top down, according to Tyler Marsh. They suspended her for conduct detrimental to the team. Come on, man.
So where does this go from here? Angel Reese can be traded as soon as the 2025 WNBA draft begins. That's April 14th, 2025. The Sky could package her with their top 5 pick and try to move up in the draft. They could trade her straight up for an established veteran who actually wants to be in Chicago. They could send her to a rebuilding team for future assets. The question isn't whether Chicago will trade her. The question is what they can get in return. And that's where this gets complicated. Because every team in the league watched what happened in September 2024. They saw her quit. They saw her blame teammates. They saw the mysterious back injury that wasn't actually an injury. Reese's trade value isn't what it should be for a 2-time All-Star in her second season. She's got talent. She averaged a double-double as a rookie. She's marketable, but she's also proven to be a locker room problem. That combination makes her incredibly difficult to value in trade negotiations. Here's what makes this particularly fascinating. Angel Reese might want out just as badly as Chicago wants her gone. She never seemed fully committed to the Sky organization. She's got business interests in other cities. She's building a media brand that doesn't require her to be in Chicago. A trade might be the best outcome for everyone involved. The teams that make sense as destinations are limited. You need a franchise that's either desperate for star power or believes they can manage her personality better than Chicago did. Maybe Dallas, who's building around Arik Ogunbowale and needs front court help. Maybe Atlanta, who's in full rebuild mode and can afford to take a risk. Maybe Washington, who just hired a new coach and might want to make a splash. But here's what you can't ignore. The Sky made Angel Reese the face of their franchise for 2 years. They built marketing campaigns around her. They created Barbie nights specifically for her brand. They invested in making her the centerpiece of their rebuild. And it failed so spectacularly that they're now actively trying to move on just 18 months later. That's not just a player-team fit issue. That's a fundamental breakdown in organizational culture. Either Chicago's front office completely misread who Angel Reese was as a person and teammate, or they knew and thought they could manage it. Either way, it's an indictment of their talent evaluation process. Think about the position this puts Camila Cardoso in. She was drafted 3rd overall in 2024, 4 spots ahead of Reese. She's supposed to be the future of this franchise, but the entire narrative got hijacked by Reese's personality and controversies. Cardoso barely got any attention during her rookie season because all the oxygen in the room got sucked up by Reese drama. If Chicago trades Reese, suddenly Cardoso becomes the undisputed centerpiece. She can develop without the constant media circus. The coaching staff can build an offense around her strengths instead of trying to balance 2 post players with completely different styles. That might be the best thing that could happen for her development. Hailey Van Lith is another factor here. She barely played as a rookie, got buried on the bench. If Reese leaves and the Sky use that roster spot and salary cap space to add perimeter shooting and playmaking, Van Lith suddenly has room to grow. The entire roster dynamic changes. But let's be honest about what this really represents. This is a franchise admitting they made a mistake. They're admitting that drafting Angel Reese and trying to build around her didn't work. They're admitting that her talent doesn't outweigh the problems she creates. That's a tough pill to swallow for any organization. The timing of the Barbie night cancellation is particularly brutal because it comes right before the draft. Chicago is sending a message to every prospect in the 2025 class. They're saying we're moving on from our previous star and we're ready to invest in someone new. That's smart positioning if you're trying to attract top talent. So here's the real question. Was any of this salvageable? Could Chicago and Angel Reese have worked through their issues if both sides were committed? Maybe, but it would have required Reese to take accountability for quitting on her teammates. It would have required her to apologize to Courtney Vandersloot and Ariel Powers publicly. It would have required her to commit to being a better teammate instead of just a better individual player. And there's zero indication she was willing to do any of that. Zero indication she saw her behavior as problematic. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. Angel Reese showed Chicago exactly who she is in September 2024, and Chicago is responding by showing her the door. The league is watching this situation closely because it sets a precedent. Can a young star quit on her team mid-season and face real consequences, or do teams just accept that behavior because talent is too valuable to punish? Chicago is choosing consequences. They're choosing organizational culture over individual talent. That's rare in professional sports, and it's going to be fascinating to watch how it plays out. What do you think happens next? Does Chicago get fair value in a trade, or are they forced to sell low because every team knows they're desperate to move her? Does Angel Reese end up on a contender, or does she get shipped to a rebuilding team where she'll face the same struggles? And most importantly, do you think she learns anything from this, or does this pattern repeat itself at her next stop? Drop your predictions in the comments. Hit subscribe if you want to follow this story as it develops, and let's see how this plays out over the next few months.